And we are live. Oh, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday to you. Are you ready? I am so full of energy today because after this week, seriously, how could you not be? Y'all, this was like the whole pageant, the whole just exposition of Black girl brilliance and just all the good stuff. And y'all, after how this year has started, wasn't
Good
it nice?
morning, good morning,
Uh-oh.
Oh, sorry.
No problem, no problem. It was nice. It was nice.
This is
Hey,
not my
listen.
wheelhouse.
Yes, honey, I understand. So y'all just bear with us just a tiny bit because we in here trying to get the tech stuff together, but we are excited and we are ready to go and talk about all that has happened this week. And really, y'all, I was thinking about it. I was like, wow, with all this Black girl brilliance, like I have so much Black girl brilliance in my circle. And I was like, you know what? Everybody's like, my VP looks like me. And I was like, well, how about I got a mathematician and some deputy general counsels and captains and doctors that look like me too? And so I was like, why don't we get on here and shatter that glass ceiling and show these other women in real life who are out here just doing the thing. Good morning, everybody. I see you. Thank you so much for saying hello and letting us know that you can hear us. Let's start with that. We have accomplished mission number one. Y'all can hear us and hopefully you can see us because I have an amazing panel here this morning and I cannot wait to share them with you. They are going to be talking about their experiences from the boardroom to the playroom to the courtroom and just everything in between, focusing on priorities and pivots and purpose and all the good stuff. So I cannot wait. For those of you who do not know me, I am Niger Drake. I am founder of Spark Her Blaze, where we empower women to spark their flame so that they can blaze their uniquely divine trails. And these women are blazing trails. So I don't want to waste too much time. I want to get to the meat of what we're going to talk about today, which is chucks and pearls. Y'all, we got our pearls on. We got their pearls on. We ready. We got our chucks and pearls, and we are ready to talk about what it really means out here when we talk about chucks and pearls. Because it wasn't without some challenges, without some overcoming, without some fight. You know, they say to whom much is given, much is required. And so we're going to talk about all of that, y'all. So stay with us through the show, and I'm going to get to it. So I'm going to introduce my first guest. Her name is Kenya Pierre Esquire. Welcome to the show, Kenya. Kenya is a chemistry and pre-med major. She was a chemistry pre-med major at Spelman College, my alma mater, law review graduate of the University of Cincinnati College of Law. She started her career in law as a patent attorney for Procter & Gamble in their beauty care division, then moved on to Coca-Cola. If anybody knows, we all know that company here in Atlanta, where she supported their global juice and nutritional research science. She moved on to do corporate research, innovation, litigation, global compliance, and as a lead business counsel for the global nonwovens at Kimberly-Clark. Most recently, she served as Arauco. Am I pronouncing that right? Tell me. Fix it.
Arauco.
Arauco. Thank you. North America. And now, currently, she is the Deputy General Counsel for Strava, which is the leading internet and app for athletes who wish to track their running and cycling routines. Yeah, that's where I'm aspiring towards. Called an athlete to be thrown into that category. She is the proud mom of 3 daughters that keeps her family very busy with volleyball. And in her spare time, she is a certified 200 RYT yoga instructor who loves leading others in their journey of well-being. Welcome to the show, Kenya.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, without much further ado, I am going to introduce our next guest, who is Dr. Talitha Washington. She is the inaugural director of the Atlanta University Center Data Science Initiative. I'm so excited to hear more about that. She's a full professor of mathematics. Yes, you heard me correctly. Mathematics at Clark Atlanta University. She's also affiliate faculty at Morehouse School of Medicine, and Spelman College. She is the former program director at the National Science Foundation. Previously received the Distinguished Outstanding Faculty Award from Howard University. And in November of 2020, y'all, she became the first to be named as a fellow both to the American Mathematical Society and the Association for Women in Mathematics in the same year. So we are excited to have her here. She got her degree in mathematics from Spelman College and a PhD in mathematics from the University of Connecticut. Welcome to the show, Dr. Washington.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We are so excited and happy to have you. Next, I'm going to introduce Captain Dr. Maurice. Barista B. Rice. Welcome to the show. She is currently serves as the Southeast Deputy Division Director of the Office of Southern Health Services for the HRSA. Did I get it right?
That's a lot of words.
Oh, all right. I was
government and acronyms.
Okay. All right. So I am excited she is here. She oversees the work of staff members who manage grants for health centers in the southern states in health resources, and their mission is so beautiful. It really is to provide access to high quality primary and preventative health care for people who are under and uninsured or face obstacles to getting health care. She's been involved in public health since 2000, and she is commissioned as an officer in the United States Public Health Service since 2007, and her current rank, y'all, is captain. I want to make sure I do this correctly. We excited to have you here, Captain Dr. Captain. All right. So she has her doctorate of philosophy and health administration with a concentration in public health policy from Walden University, and holds her bachelor in science degree from, again, my alma mater, Spelman College. Last but not least, I have Kanika Sloan Williams, Esquire. She also is a graduate of Spelman, also of Tulane Law School. I know I love my Spelman. Come on now, we sisters. I love my Spelman sisters. I could not be more excited to have a whole panel of Spelman sisters today. But she is a commercial transactions attorney and privacy officer with a Fortune 10 company. Members of both the New York State and Georgia State Bar. She's held corporate positions with the Home Depot, SunTrust Bank, Citibank, JP Morgan, as well as various law firms in both New York and Georgia. She's an active member of the National Association of Spelman College Atlanta chapter, and is on the Diversity Council of Tulane University. Y'all, they have so many receipts. Like, I literally am having to take deep breaths to get through the sentences, but I am so excited. She is passionate about service, volunteers with the Georgia Innocence Project, the Pajama Project, the Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys. And y'all, this woman has raised over $100,000 in 3 years through a crowdfunding fundraising initiative that she did with moms from Spelman College. Who says we cannot do it? We do it. And she's the mom of 2 brilliant children. Y'all, these are my guests. Welcome to the show, all of you.
I don't know about y'all, but I think we should take Naja with us as a hype woman. She can do her intro for any speaking event.
Anytime.
That's right.
You just muted yourself, Naja.
She got so excited.
There you go. Right. Shut the mic down.
Yeah, there we go.
I was so hyped that the mic was like,
right.
You need to bring it down. But I get excited, y'all, truthfully, when I am embraced and I am surrounded by Black women that are just out here doing the thing and just being all brilliant and all the things. So I am just excited to have you all here. So let's get to it. So y'all, I know y'all thought we were going to just talk about your resumes and all that you've done in your professional lives, which is amazing. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it too, because I want women to understand what it's really like when you're shattering glass, right? Because if you really think about what is involved in shattering glass, y'all, it's kind of a mess. Yeah. There's some messiness involved. It can be some hurt involved because you're out there doing the work. And when you're on the front lines and you're the first or one of the first of what you're doing, there are challenges that come with that. So we are going to dig into all of that. So y'all, I want to just get started. Tell me a little bit about what does a normal day look like for you? Like, what time do you get up in the morning? Like, what time do you start work? What are maybe 2 or 3 things that are kind of usual, if there's such a thing, and kind of what your day looks like? And then what time you going to bed? I want to just hear, like, what's your normal day like? Because I'm tired. I'm telling you, I'm a little tired reading just through the bio. So tell me, in real life, what's it like? Dr. Rice, you want to start? What's your day like?
Sure. Thank you so much for having us. I love this energy that's on this show. So, it just depends, because pre-COVID, the day looked totally different. So let me go with the pre-COVID, and then we can kind of bring it to the COVID. So pre-COVID, get up, devotion is the first thing. Must, because I have to set the tone. Because like you said, sometimes when you go in that office, there may be some mess, there may be some joy. So if you've already grounded yourself in the word or some kind of, affirmation that you've done, that will kind of set your day. So that way, when you step in that elevator, you can say good.
I lost you. Dr. Rice?
Your audio muted.
I don't know what
she muted her. She's on mute for some reason.
Maybe it's just random.
There you go.
There you go. Okay. So you were saying before you walk on that elevator, that's what you were about to tell us. Before you walk on that elevator, you done set the tone.
I've set the tone, and I'm losing these AirPods as you recommended earlier. So anyway, that's what I do to kind of get myself going. I have that staple, that cup of coffee in the morning and that yoga to try to just get my day going. One thing that I am trying to get better at is that exercise piece in the morning. So that's when it gets a little messy, because I really do feel better when I've gotten a workout in and go in. But, some days you just be a little sluggish, and that's when that coffee comes. So that's pretty much how we do it. Now, COVID time, it just depends, because a lot of it is virtual. I don't know when to draw the lines of the start and the end of the workday. And so I have to really be mindful of, okay, if this is your set hours, unless there's an emergency, log off of that computer and go spend your time with your family and doing the things that you need to do.
Okay, I need you to just stop right now. because that really is a whole word. That really is a whole sermon right there, to know that you have a boundary clear cut each day. I'm shutting down. Now this, y'all heard her receipts. She is a straight up captain and a doctor dealing with COVID. I'm just saying. And even she is prioritizing making time to shut it down at a certain time each day. Okay, I just had to make sure that in case somebody missed that we made sure that they caught that.
That's it.
Awesome. So are you like, what is kind of the things that you're responsible in your day? Like, you have a team? Like, tell me just in a few sentences, like, kind of what's your responsibility day to day?
Right. So as the deputy division director, I'm really responsible for the supervisory role that I play with the division. I dabble a lot into the program management side of things, but I guess my greatest joy is the career development of others, because I've had others that have kind of helped me shape my career to get where I need to be. So I really take pride in really looking and analyzing where my staff are and where they'd like to go and trying to help them get there. So that's the excitement. Now, for the most part, we're responsible for the oversight of the federal funding that we give to the health centers across the country. And again, as I mentioned, the southern states. So, of course, Georgia's one of them.
Thank you for your work.
No worries. And, there are a lot of health disparities that we see in the southern states. And so what we do is we make sure that the health centers are spending their dollars in accordance with the law and the statute. And that can be, time consuming at times, but I have to say the health centers are out there making great strides. And especially when COVID hit, they jumped right in. They were ready. They were ready with the testing. They were ready with whatever it was that they needed to do to make sure their community stayed safe. So on a nutshell, that's pretty much what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. That is great insight into kind of what your work really looks like. Kanika, what about you? Tell me a little bit about like, what's your day like? What time are you getting up in the morning?
It depends on the day. But I do set my alarm goes off at 5:30. I'm gonna hit the snoozer, so I usually don't actually get out of bed until 6. I have little tricks to kind of trick myself. But I have 2 children who are 9 and 13, and so one is homeschooling and one is in class. So my day, like Dr. Rice's, might just vary, right? I'm mom, I am chauffeur, I'm the ATM machine, and then I also have, a C-suite level role at my job. So thankfully with COVID, a lot of the travel has ended, but there is definitely a space where my son is homeschooled or virtual, whatever the word is these days. My son, we've had to come up with a routine. Like when my door is closed, I am in a meeting. You can't pop in and ask for a Go-Gurt. Like you gotta, if you're literally not bleeding as in gushing blood, that's our sign, right? We've got to have, to Dr. Rice's point, not just boundaries around my workday, but I also have to have boundaries in some ways in my family life. They can't keep merging and flowing, because then I'm not giving the right amount of attention to everything. And as you said, good. Yeah, I start my day with my devotionals, with my affirmations, because even though I don't have to go in the elevator, I still have to, I think, and this is something a lot of Black women share, I always make sure I feel authentic and authoritative, both of those A's, in spaces, including virtual ones. So if I'm in a virtual meeting, I'm still, at least from top up, in a blazer, in a dress down shirt, or in earrings or whatever, because I don't feel like I have the same flexibility to necessarily be chill, right? And so it's important for me to be as successful as I can, both at home and at work, to be very clear about where my intentions are and where my boundaries are. So if this is the time I block out time when I'm going to get my child. I don't try to take meetings in the car unless it's an emergency. If that's my time to pick my kid up and talk to her, I don't try to do both unless there's no other way. And so if that means that I block out from 4 to 5 for swimming, then that may mean that when we get home, I'm like, okay, guys, I'm going to go do some work from 5 to 6, and mommy's store is going to be closed. So for me, managing my day means being very intentional about what I want to accomplish and about how I manage my schedule.
That is so good and so empowering, because as y'all know, I'm a coach, and I'm dealing with a lot of women who are in corporate settings, and the idea of saying, I can't do that time, and suggesting another time because my kid usually spills milk on the table between 8 and 8:30, and I can't do the conference call while they're spilling milk. It seems we as women sometimes carry this guilt that somehow, it's shameful to be like, I can't manage milk and manage you. Hello. And if you know that there's something going on as it relates to your family, being clear about your boundaries with your boss and your boss kids is essential. Really. No, the boss babies, hey, let's not get it twisted. They be in here talking about, like you said, I need my Go-Gurt. But having clear boundaries with both is really essential to being successful, even when you're shattering ceilings. I mean, that is amazing. I love that. Kimberly Sanders Bryant just said, I am a firm believer in saying what I need, and that's awesome. Y'all, you better say that. Say what you need. You're like, I don't have support, I don't have this. Did you ask? Let's start with that. Did you make someone aware that you are experiencing this issue? So I am so happy you brought that up. Dr. Washington, tell me, what is I'm embarrassed to say, I don't think I've met a real mathematician up close and personal. So I'm really excited about it. But
I'm right here.
I'm reaching out to touch you. I'm excited to have you here. Tell me, so what does a day look like kind of for you? I know it varies. What time do you get up? What does your day look like in terms of what are you doing?
Okay, so my schedule is atypical, I think, for a mathematician.
Okay.
So let me just preface it with that, but it seems to work. I usually wake up between 4 and 4:30, get a cup of coffee. AM, sorry, yeah. So 4 and 4:30 AM is when I wake
I'm
up.
sorry.
And the way I wake up, I put on the nightly news from the night before, put on the earbuds and clean up the kitchen because there's always something to clean up. My kid calls it the cleaning fairy. But anyway, go to sleep. So I wake up, I drink coffee, clean the kitchen, and then usually so that's about 30 minutes of cleaning every day, just so it doesn't pile up. And then I go to the gym. Either I'll do kickboxing or I'll do step aerobics or weight training. I love HIIT, high intensity interval training, what have you. As long as I can jump around like a fool, I'm in heaven. And so I've learned that there are a lot of people on YouTube that I follow, and I'm also I'm an avid cathlete. So Kathy's a fitness guru. So I love her to death, and I go on her weekend road trip. But anyway, so I'll spend an hour doing aerobics, and then I'll take my shower and I'll start the day with another cup of coffee, read through emails. What's my agenda? Who am I meeting today? And then I'll make a list, prioritized list in a notebook, and say, okay, what do I need to do today that's urgent? What needs to be done that's not so urgent, but if I have time, we just keep it in the queue sort of thing. And then now these days I have meetings usually kind of back to back. Sometimes I'll get some breathing room, but like it can be as bad as like 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. meetings, which can be pretty intense. So I have a stand-up desk, and this is my chair.
I love it. I was just going to ask you, with the intensity of your meetings, do you schedule hard breaks? Like, do any of you schedule hard breaks in your day where you're just like, I got to take some me time throughout my day?
Yeah,
Are y'all deliberate about that?
I'll turn the camera off and do a back bend on the ball and just listen to what the other person's saying.
Upside down? I love it.
Yeah. And then, so usually then I kind of go back and forth. My day ends, hang out with the kid. She's here, she's in school, sort of thing, finishing out. She's in high school and community college at the same time, so she's finishing out. And then hopefully she'll cook something. And, then I just kind of go to sleep sort of thing. And usually I'm in bed by 8 o'clock.
That's nice. Okay, so this is really
exactly. It's really bad, for the weekend and dating life if you can't stay up past 8 p.m. So I haven't really figured that part yet.
I got you. But this is good. What you shared, though, there was such insight in it, and with respect to prioritizing your day. I am finding that a lot of times when we find out that our day is chaos, it started off in straight chaos. Dr. Rice was like, I'm getting up, I'm doing the devotions. Kanika's like, I'm doing the devotions, I'm doing my affirmations. Dr. Washington's like, look, I got to work out, you have a system, you have a morning routine that you go through in the morning that prepares you, like you said, for that first person that pops out the elevator or pops on your Zoom like, oh, it's good to see you. And you already know what's behind that. So I'm glad to hear that. And I want our listeners to understand the importance of having that morning routine and prioritizing before you even start the day. I always tell people, what you do before your feet ever hit the floor is going to determine what happens once they do. And so getting ahead of it in the morning is so critical to like making things happen and making sure your day kind of flows in alignment. Kenya, tell me about your day. Tell me.
I feel like such a sloth. I'm like, Talitha's waking up at 4:30. I'm like, I think I get up and go to the bathroom maybe and go right back to bed at 4:30. But so I have a little bit of a different situation. I started with Strava, who is based in San Francisco, California. So I'm a little different in that I work California hours, but I live in Atlanta, Georgia. So my day, actually, I start my day around 8:30, 9 o'clock, but it really doesn't start until like 11, because that's 8 o'clock time. So I do that. I do devotion either in the morning or in the evening, because I'm a little bit of a night owl. Not a little bit, a lot of it. But I started trying to change my routine to do it in the morning. So and also doing yoga. I like to do yoga in the morning if I can, and just get that stretch, even if it's like just 10 minutes. I like to just do that. But I make sure that I'm worked out at least by like 10 o'clock, and then I, hop in my computer and wait for everybody to wake up on the West Coast. The nice thing about our company is, like, if you're in a meeting and you're just trying to listen in, you can like look on the Zoom and you'll see people like on their like stationary bike, and they're just riding. I've done, and I do that now, like, 'cause this company invites that. So it's, even before that though, I would do that and get off of Zoom. Like, I would just be listening, but like, I wouldn't have my video on, and I would just ride while I'm listening to the meeting. I mean, of course, those are for meetings that you're just listening in, or it's like information only. And a lot of times we have those. But if I can't find the time during the day, I just do it. One thing that I've set for myself is that I've got to do 15 minutes every day of some activity. And that's a goal that I try to get women, especially, to incorporate in their day. I don't care when you do it. I don't care how you do it, but everybody's got like 10 to 15 minutes, 10 is your minimum. I just upped it this year to try to just get it in, and I like to do it in the mornings because I do work later hours because, again, I'm on California time. I do set my boundary at 6 o'clock to just, shut down and at least like attend to the girls. I have teenagers, so luckily they're kind of self-sufficient. And then I may come back on and just kind of catch up with some things at night before going to bed. And I wind down, at night with TV. I'm currently watching The Crown, so I'm trying to finish that up.
Awesome sauce. That is so great. Y'all, you ladies shared some really amazing ways to make sure that we are setting boundaries. Everybody is doing some form of fitness, some morning routine, even if it doesn't involve movement, that has to deal with, getting your mind right, setting the tone for the day. And I think so often we as women need to understand that is critical. I love some of the stuff you talked about, Dr. Washington, in terms of bouncing on that ball, and doing the things during the meeting. And even you, Kenya, with respect to being on the bike while the meeting's happening and listening to what's happening. I assume those are meetings you're not leading, but being able to find a way to multitask your wellness. We can multitask our kids, be like, oh, let me handle this, let me handle that, and multitask all these other things. Are we multitasking what's important to us? It's going to make it's going to be meaningful in terms of how we show up. I love what Dr. McGee said. She says, I also have a mini elliptical under my desk, and that helps with stress. Okay, you might need to post the link on that in the comments, because I have not seen that as yet. So something that Kanika brought up, I really want to kind of jump back to. She talked about showing up as her authentic self, right? That she wants to show up both authentically and authoritatively. I thought that was a whole word. As you ladies, I'm sure I know for me, I've evolved into my authentic self. Okay, so when I remember when I was an investment banker, and I knew bankers only wore black, brown, and blue. You wore the button-up collar shirt. Like, I was like, this is what bankers do. This is how they show up. And there was a certain point I was like, I don't like those colors. Like, I'm very vibrant. Most people would see me like I'm in fuchsia and yellow and just wild stuff, because that's kind of who I am. I might have a flower in my hair, y'all. That's who I am. So how did you, I guess, did y'all evolve into that authentic self? And when you did, what does she look like? How does the authentic self compare to the initial woman that showed up in that boardroom or office?
I'll go on that because, like lawyers are very similar. They wear like black, brown, and blue. And I think when I first started interviewing, I think I like interviewed in like an olive green suit. I feel like I've always kind of just brought my character and try to find my culture that I needed to fit in with. And fortunately and unfortunately, I found places where I could be me, and I knew how to tweak it and compromise, but I never let them steal like who I was. And and found a way to, kind of carry both. And I think that that's important, to understand who you are and what you like and what you want to do, and know that it's not in a harmful, it's not harming the environment to be who you are. I think as Black women, that we already come in being a Black woman. So, it's already going to be an issue. So if I want to wear, red instead of blue, then, that's probably the least of my worries, honestly. And I think you have to acknowledge and understand that, they're going to find a reason. So you might as well be who you are.
You know what?
Don't lose your integrity.
I love that, Kenya, that like day one, you were like, I'm showing up in olive green. And then, no, but putting it out there from day one, like, this is who I am. And it's not just about me finding my place in your culture, but you also understanding that my culture is coming to the table and this is who I am, and determining if it's a fit off the rip. I think so often we're like, I need to have this job, right? And then it's like, well, let me figure out how to fit into that. But understanding that who you are and showing up day one is okay, and finding that place where it's okay for you to do that is important.
Yeah, it's balance. It's about balance.
Yeah, I love that. How about anybody else in terms of how do you go about, like, can you kind of pinpoint the place, the point in time where you found your authentic self, and then was there any sort of like difference in kind of how you showed up after that, or were y'all just authentic from day one?
I want to follow back up on something that Kenya mentioned. And, my dad always told me it's easier to be you than it is to be anybody else. And so, I've often heard over the times, oh my goodness, you're from New York, you're so loud. Well, guess what? Some of that has allowed me to not only be at the table, but to have a voice at the table. And I think, just over the years, it was a moment for me when I went to interview for a position. And I brought Maurice, I brought Reese, I brought that girl, because when I put myself into the work, that's who you're going to see. Sometimes Dr. Rice comes out, Captain Rice, Maurice, Reese, Spellman girl, whatever, he comes out. And so I was in an interview and I thought I seemed to do really well. And so a dear friend gave me some feedback. The person said, well, we felt we couldn't mold her. Well, you know what? You're absolutely right. You cannot mold me. And especially at that point in my career, where I was not that new person to the industry or the government. I'd been around for some time. And I'm at a place now where I don't feel I need to be molded, but I need to be guided. I need to be mentored. And so that's when I was just like, you know what? Like you just stated, you might as well be who you're going to be, because if you already have a thought about you, it's still going to be there. And so I didn't get that opportunity. That's when I threw myself back into school. And then shortly after that, just by being myself is how I came to and how I came to evolve.
What about you, Dr. Washington? I'm curious, and I'm going to come back to you, Kanika.
No worries.
All right. Dr. Washington, how is it for you, being a mathematician, and I'm sure seeing women on the stage as a mathematician, much less a woman of color. Like, how do you manage staying authentic to who you are?
So I don't think I had that luxury to think about my authentic self going through grad school, going through the tenure track process, trying to get the publications, the grants, as they say, getting your hustle on in mathematics, because there's so many different things you just have, to be quote unquote successful in mathematics. There's a lot of different things you need to do. And a huge part of that tenure track process is meeting the expectations of your peers. So that's also a humbling process that's really meeting expectations of the field, your peers, your colleagues, so you can essentially keep a job. So, and also having 3 kids along the way, I didn't have time to think about me, what am I going to bring? I was just trying to get the papers, get the teaching on point, being engaged with the professional societies, doing all of these things. But now that my kids are kind of leaving, right? Now I have time and space to think about, what is my authentic self? What is my brand? What am I bringing? And honestly, I don't think I had the breathing room to really think about that for quite some time, just because of all this other stuff. But I think that I've kind of arrived at a place where, I am a mathematician. I do wear suit jackets. I do have a nose ring. I got it in and low 5 points right down here in Atlanta. So I'm an exercise fanatic. I'm a mathematician. I used to coach youth sports. So I have all these different facets. And for me, they're okay. For some other people, it could be, we'll say, confusing or overwhelming. So I've also arrived at a place where I invite other people to engage with me, and I kind of help them understand how to engage with me. I just don't kind of show up and slap them in the face with all my awesomeness, but I'm sensitive to empathize their point of view, their vantage point, so they can kind of comprehend that a typical mathematician, we're not just somebody, a white dude with a pocket protector. There are many different types of mathematicians. There's a lot of different types of math. The math that people see in elementary or high school is not the mathematics that we do. It's quite different. So now I'm at a point where I can think about it, and I can also invite other people into that space with me and bring them.
I love that. I love that. I mean, the truth of the matter is the way you described your journey in terms of, hey, I didn't have time to even think about authentic self. I was just trying to like get out there and survive in these streets, make sure that paychecks that kept coming every 2 weeks. Hey, that's most of us. And I definitely was there for a long time, but I'm happy to hear that you found that, that place where you're like, yes, I am going to show up as me, all the multifacets, the parts you get, the parts you don't understand, all that showing up, but then making people feel comfortable. Like, and I invite you to, like, you can do the same. Like, you don't have to feel intimidated or feel some kind of way about the fact that I am not what you expect, right? But that most of us got a whole bunch of stuff you don't expect. All right, Kanika, you wanted to jump in there before. Come on with me, girl.
I was really just going to add, I think for me, it probably was more of a journey than a epiphany, right? But part of the journey, and this is what I really stress, one of the things that someone told me that was really important is there's a difference between mentorship and sponsorship, right? And so in our career spaces, to Dr. Rice's point, when I see other women, particularly Black women, but really women who are at earlier parts of their journey, my being authentic when I'm sponsoring them helps them to, Talitha's point, helps them understand that you still can be, you still can be Black, you can still be authentic, and you can still be, a C-suite officer. Those things can still happen. But the other side to it, where I'm very clear, is that the way you get to authentic is through excellence. You can't just be authentic and be, raggedy.
I love that.
It doesn't work. You can't be like, this is who I am, but I didn't do a good job. Then nobody cares who you are. You know what I'm saying? Right. What sells authenticity, what makes it work, as you went through all the receipts that everybody has, is that you have created a reputation for being a person who delivers. Dr. Rice talks about not getting that role and then going back and building up her resume with school and saying, that wasn't for me, and now I have something that speaks to all of the parts I do. So I tell people to bring their authentic selves, but I also tell them to make sure that they have done their part, that they have done their work. I have earned the right to be authentic, because when you're going to send me that email, I am going to send you please see all of these parts that I already told you I have checked. So authenticity is perfectly reasonable and desired, but I would be very candid when I'm mentoring people in their 20s. I'm not telling you to be less, you and less aggressive or abrasive. I'm saying if you're going to bring it, then you need to have done your part, because if I go into that meeting and I'm sponsoring you and I'm putting you forward, do not embarrass me. Somebody's saying, well, I gave her an assignment and I haven't heard from her, but she had plenty of attitude about it. So there still is that part, to Talitha's point, that you still at some point have to have earned those kudos. And part of what authenticity brings is that I have done the work. So when I come in this space, I come with the full confidence knowing that I belong in this space. Even if you don't think I do, even if, as Dr. Rice says, I have to make, and Shirley Chisholm says, I have to bring my folding chair. I know that this is where I belong because I've been doing this work for a while. So
I love that.
Can I add to that?
Like entry point. Mm-hmm.
Can I add to Kanika's point about, not only the excellence part, But I think part of the authenticity is that when you know that you are excellent and when you understand how hard you've worked to get to whatever opportunity that you're in, I think part of the authenticity is also knowing that and keeping that and not letting anyone knock that down from you. And stand in your greatness. As Dr. Washington said, bring all this awesomeness, understand what it is and hold on to that. Growing up in my career as a patent attorney and then going into C-suite in general counsel roles, I came in as the only Black woman in a lot of times, and especially in a very white male world, and legal world is still very there. I think they just trail behind in diversity, but we're working on it. There were many times when they try to get me to doubt who I am and doubt my excellence and doubt that integrity. And so understanding that and being that greatness, don't let them knock you down. Check, if you have to check yourself and call your sisters, especially your Spelman sisters, who are also excellent. Like, I feel like a peon amongst everybody right now. And that's just how it is when you're a Spelman woman. I'm like, oh, you think I'm an anomaly? Girl, I've had people tell me, like white guys tell me, oh, you're just an anomaly. I'm like, no, I've got like thousands of sisters who are way better than me, way better. But understand who you are and like hold on to that and never let anyone, make you doubt yourself, as you are coming into your greatness and coming into your evolution of your authenticity. Understand that and hold on to that, because there are going to be many times that you will get told that you aren't this, or you're an exception, and I think there are moments where, it's not your, bring that chair, know that you belong there. And if it means that you have to move to another company or move to a different space, just hold on to who you are. And I think that's so important as you go through this, because you will get knocked down in your excellence.
This is so good, because I think I can tell you, personally speaking, there was a point in my career where I left the corporate world to focus on raising my babies. And it was at that point that I realized that I had really confused who I was with what I did. So how do you guys go about, ensuring that what you do doesn't get so entangled into who you are? Because when I didn't have the investment banking job to roll into and be able to put on a suit, and I'm like covered in a bib and spit up, and it was like, this is not it, right? So I think, but it took some time for me to like redefine success for myself, understood what success looked for me in the particular season that I was in, and then be able to say, no, this is who I am, and it has nothing to do with what I do. How did y'all go through a process of that? How did you kind of keep that balance?
Well, I always say what I do is the least interesting thing about who I am, honestly.
Right.
I'm very good at what I do. I enjoy what I do. But it's honestly, to me, Talitha being a fitness advocate, I'm from New York as well, Marisa. I think there's so many facets of who I am, that the career I have is important. It pays my bills. It allows me to travel. My kids can eat. That's great. But it's the least of what I do. But I also, to your point, think that, and even Kenya's, your sense of value cannot be tied to a check. And I know that that's hard when you're starting off in your career, because you're like, oh, you can say that now because you're a six-figure earner. You didn't say that when you, but it is something you get to. But my point is very simply that, first of all, that is a myth that this capitalist country, equates how much somebody makes. It's in my opinion insane that teachers are paid less than investment bankers, right? And no, I used to do investment banking as well now, but I'm just saying that I tell people now, I work hard, but I worked a lot harder earlier in my career, and there's no real correlation to how much you earn versus necessarily the amount of effort you put into it. That's just not how capitalism works. So it's a false narrative to tie your value to a number, right? And for me, and we talked about this in the beginning, I define myself through service. and I feel like I can serve anywhere. I serve at work. If I see something, whether it's a project, I'm like, y'all can afford to donate. Lawyers, if you can't give time, you can give money, right? So we're gonna do, angel trees, or we're going to sponsor a family. Again, I run that crowdfunding initiative. You can serve anywhere. You can volunteer for an election. There are so many ways. And every time somebody tells me I don't have time, I say, listen, I'm one of the busiest people I know. People make time for what they want to. Talitha gets up at 4:30, bless her heart. It won't be me, but I will find a time, maybe more like around the 10 a.m. time. So you have to find, and that is definitely a process. And to Kenya's point, sometimes when you're surrounded by so many successful, brilliant people, you do look at yourself and you're like, maybe I'm a slacker. Then you got to go back to what your core is for you. And for me, when I am in a space that I can do, I do. And so that is what grounds me. And I tell people, you wouldn't even want to see my tax returns from 20 years ago. I have made $19,000. I've made everything in between. And I couldn't tell you that I was happier at one number than I was at the other. And so you just have to find what drives you, what brings you joy, what brings you peace. And if that's your job, fantastic. If that's your family, fantastic. If that's how you serve God, fantastic. But you have to find that for yourself. And no one else can tell you what it is. And then you got to do what the Bible says, that comparison is the thief of joy. You cannot continue to compare yourself to other people. They are where they are in their journey, and you didn't go through what they went through, and they don't know what you went through. And so you just found yourself in your story and believe that you are on the path you need to be. And I promise you, opportunities, both career-wise and life-wise, will come for you to serve in your purpose, whatever that is for you.
Yeah. Kanika, that was such a whole word. Like, seriously, I'm trying to figure out where to start. But real talk, y'all, you might want to go back and listen to that piece just on replay in your vehicle, because there are going to be moments where you're going to look at yourself and, like she said, compare. You're going to look at yourself and say, but my bank account. You're going to look at yourself and think and feel less than. But really what it boils down to, when you said that your job is the least interesting part of who you are, of who comprises you, but as you think about foundationally at your core, you are a server. You are a woman of service, and that's what you bring wherever you go. And that is often a hard lesson for us to learn. I know for me, for a long time, my top priority was making money, moving up in the career, all these different things. And then, like you said, Kanika, I found myself dissatisfied. Like, why do I feel like I ain't doing nothing? Like, people looking at the resume like, ooh, and I'm like, whatever. This is not, I'm not fulfilled. I'm not feeling purposeful. I'm not feeling meaningful. And so this is an important conversation that I've been having with women. I continue to have with them. It's just around prioritizing what matters most to you. Because if you're not moving in the areas that matter most to you, all the other stuff ain't even gonna matter. I love that.
For me, sometimes I get it blurred because I'm completely in love with what I do, right? I love all things data science, mathematics. I work with amazing faculty, at Clark, Atlanta, Spelman, Morehouse School of Medicine, work directly with the provosts, the presidents. We're starting up a student club, getting funding, starting up curriculum. And so I can actually, when I sleep sometimes, I'm thinking about, solving or developing projects or programs where sometimes it blurs and I get too in love with what I do. And because it's super fun for me. And so I have to have friends who remind me, it's a job. If something, God forbid, were to happen to me, they'd probably have the job posted before, my obituary, ink dry sort of thing.
But you know what? The beauty of it, though, is it sounds like in your core, you're a mathematician. Like, it's part of what makes you click. It's part of what makes you move. And I think that's perfect as well, because if you're in a career where, like, literally what you do, like, embodies part of who you are, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you are at a point where you recognize it's not, but you're still putting all your time and energy into something that you recognize is not, I think that's where Kanika's point comes in. It's like, okay, yes, I can be passionate about my work. I can be good at what I do, but it's not all of who I am. And I want to explore those elements as well. Giving yourself permission, to explore the parts of you outside of what you do is good. But I love the fact that in your particular role that it's enmeshed. I love that.
Yeah, but sometimes it could be too enmeshed where I
Okay.
don't turn off. And
Yep.
then I get more stressed, and then the shoulders
Yep.
go, and you're kind of like, and then you don't perform as well, right? You perform better if you're actually happy, right? There's been studies on this. If you're a happy person, you perform better. And so I have to watch it that I get too much in focused in that. And so I need to actually force myself to unplug. It's, like eating ice cream. I love ice cream, so I just want to do it all the time. So I love what I'm doing. I want to do it all the time, but that's not a healthy balance. So sometimes I either need to check myself or have somebody look at what I'm doing and say, you need to unplug a little bit, pull back.
I love that you have accountability too. Somebody who's like, look, girl, you're doing too much. You might want to pull back in this area and that area. That is so important for us as women to have as well. And it says a lot about you that you're open to having someone kind of come in there and be like, hello, Dr. Washington, I'm gonna need you to, spend more time here or there. So I think that that's an important key for women to know as well. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. Pivots. Tell me about your most strategic quit. Why'd you quit?
So I wanted to, if I know you said you wanted to move on, but I sat here and I thought about the responses that I heard, and I just want to piggyback on what Dr. Washington stated about, your work being your passion. My work is my passion, because prior to getting commissioned as an officer, I worked for the federal government, and I worked on policy, and I worked on programs that impact the community. But it wasn't until I did my first deployment that I was like, this is where it's at for me. Being out there and seeing the satisfaction that people get when they know that you're putting your life on the line in the middle of a hurricane, in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of this and that, to be able to support them. That's where I get the high, if you will. And even preparing back in March, I can't believe it's almost going to be a year to head to New York for my mission. I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm about to leave my family. But you say your prayers and you keep it moving. And so I think for me, I have been blessed to find this because it wasn't always there. And that's where the pivot happened. So the pivot happened when I was working, and prior to coming to the federal government, someone said to me, you should think about getting commissioned. And I was like, hell no. I'm not being deployed to Afghanistan and all of these other different places, because I didn't understand, and I was very naive about what the Commission Corps did. So plug for Commission Corps right now, PHS. But once I started meeting officers, when I got to DC or the Maryland area, and they started telling me about the work that they did, and then when I hit that deployment, that's when I was like, I have really found my passion. And that was the pivot for me. Not only did it provide the satisfaction that I needed, and I felt I was doing God's work, but also the same thing, it took care of my family too as well. So it was a blessing. Now, are there days when I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm on call, we probably got to deploy? Yes. But as soon as I get the bag packed and I head out the door, I switch gears so quickly and I go into helping mode. And then I start counting down the days that I'm able to get back to my family and re-engage with them. So I think that was a pivotal moment for me when I was just like, okay, you know what? I don't want it to just be about policy on that side. I also want to be able to get into the weeds. And I came from a county level where I actually did direct service. I was working with individuals with health issues. I was working with individuals that tested positive for HIV and AIDS and going doing partner notification, going out into the community, talking to folks. Sometimes putting myself at risk because nobody wants to hear that they've been named back for somebody who has HIV, AIDS, and syphilis. But I still did it because I felt the blessing and shield from God. My husband often said, you need a gun going out there. And I was like, no, you know what? I walk with God. It's going to be okay. And I had threats. But I think it was all of those moments that kind of said, okay, you know what? You are where you need to be. And it was the public health pivot from me than the healthcare administration, because y'all talked about it earlier, the black pumps and the black suits. That's what I thought I was going to do. And then somehow public health found me. I didn't find it. And I was like, where have you been all of my life? And it's been 21 years since I've been doing it. So something must be going right. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I like the money, but I really do love the service aspect of it.
I love that. And Dr. McGee is on here saying, thank you for your service, Dr. Rice. We greatly appreciate it, all of us. Anybody else have any strategic? I love that. Anybody else have any strategic quits you want to share real quick?
Go ahead.
When you say strategic quits, you mean like you specifically left? Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I mean, again,
it could even be an involuntary leaving. It could be involuntary or voluntary that ultimately caused you to be more strategic and get more clarity about what was next and what made more sense.
I think that, like, for me, it goes back to like knowing and appreciating and being true to greatness, and not getting sucked into doubting yourself, understanding that that you worked hard, you're smart, you're catching on and looking over. I always say, like, I grabbed a white guy's playbook, and they did not like that, because I'm like, well, they're doing this, so let me do this, and let me take this course, and let me learn this, and let me make sure I'm following this. And when I was not seeing that I was being treated the same as someone else, when I know that I was being, I was being basically made to just sit over here and just put your head down while, other people were being developed and being promoted and being boosted up. And I knew that they were not as good as I was, being true to that person and saying, I'm not going to let them define me. I'm going to have to go out and get it myself. That's when I would, go into, a strategic, that was my first strategic move, is when I can't look up and see that I can excel with my excellence, and I don't see anyone that looks like me or my brother, then I know that that's not the place for me. I got what I needed from them. I'm getting all the development, and then I move on. And I think that that's the thing. It's like, you have to know who you are and what you want out of this opportunity. Like Kanika, what I do is
afraid to leave it when
not be afraid to leave. That's the thing. I think we get caught up and we're afraid to make these moves, but you have to remember, you're playing chess. You're not playing checkers. Right. And so you have to make strategic moves to do what you want to do and get out of this, what you want in life. What I do is what I do, but that's not who I am. But I'm definitely not going to let someone define who I am or what I do because of their insecurities. That's so right. If I have to make these moves to do that, that's why. And don't be afraid. Like Kanika said, do not be afraid to do that. I think we get stuck in complacency. But yeah, I'm like, I've got to, I need stuff to fund my, like, what I like to do, yoga and dancing. And I'm like, I really want to be a ballroom dancer, so being an attorney, I'm not going to half-ass it. I'm going to be amazing at it. But when I'm amazing at it, I want to be appreciated for it, and I want to be valued. So if I'm not getting the value out of it that I'm putting into it, and I'm working my butt off and staying up late and on international hours and taking calls from China at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm not getting things back from that, then I've got to make moves.
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time. So I'm going to tell this story very, very quickly. Like Naja, I used to be a securities litigation attorney, and I wanted to make an in-house move. And I had children, and my husband at the time, we were basically both working 60 hours a week in New York. Our kids were shuffled back and forth from the nanny to our parents. And I was like, I don't want to live like this. And I think sometimes you have to really ask yourself, it's one thing. And I think as Black women, sometimes we have this sacrifice mentality, right? Kind of like, we'll just keep pushing, we'll just keep doing it. Right. And then you look up and you're like, I'm 40 and I don't want to be this person, and I don't want to have this life. And so I made the change long before 40 because I knew I wanted a lifestyle. I wanted to be able to go to swimming practice and soccer practice. And I took for a lot of people, I took a $25,000 pay cut so I could pivot into a different role. I like Dr. Rice, I went and got a certification. I reached out to mentors. I learned everything I could online. I went from doing litigation, which was very high paying and, high 200s in New York, right, to moving to Atlanta, to taking a very substantial $50,000 pay cut, cost of living difference. But I knew I knew I could always make the money. I can't bring back the time with my children. Right. I can make the money once my kids are off to college. The money ain't going nowhere. But I'm gonna look back and be like, I miss prom. I missed graduation. I missed these things with them because I was off on a case that I'd be at work literally.
It looks like you're going in and out on us, Kanika. So we're gonna
Just
come
real
back to you
quick.
when we get a. Uh-huh.
Yeah, on the strategic quick. So this past summer, I left both. Left two institutions, I guess for four, right? So I was at the National Science Foundation and I was at Howard University. And so this position that I'm currently in kind of came late in the queue, late spring sort of thing. And so when I engaged with people and said, when I was looking at it, I assessed it from all angles and sought wise counsel. But I told him, I said, you know what, I may not be your direct colleague, but will always be colleague in this ecosystem. So I still talk with my friends at NSF. I'm still, engaged with the Howard faculty, administration. So it's not that I'm completely quitting. It's not 100%. I'm never going to see you again. It's, you know what? I'm going to be in another role. Let's think of other ways that we can work together and engage and collaborate. And we are finding those, around data science because we're all operating in that same space. So it's not really quitting the organization or the people. It's finding a new relationship with them where we may not get the paycheck from the same entity, but we're in the same space and we can still collaborate and work together.
I love that. I love that you don't have to leave in a way where it's like, all right, we shut the door on that. And so,
Right.
I'm out of here, but rather let's think about what other doors we can open up together and collaborate on together. I love that. All right, y'all, believe it or not, it's been a whole hour. We are at the end of this hour.
Conversation.
It always goes by so fast, but I gotta have you guys back again because I feel like we've only scratched the surface in terms of really hearing your perspectives on how to navigate this way in a way that is true, that's authentic, that's healthy, and makes sense for you. So I'm gonna close out with this one question. We have listeners from boardrooms to courtrooms to playrooms. And all of us women, whatever rooms we find ourselves, we are valuable, we are needed, and we are able to express ourselves in a way that brings purpose and meaning to wherever we find ourselves. What one advice would you give to a woman as she is trying to define success for herself?
So I will start and go back to what I stated yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, earlier. You have to show up and you have to be you. And you should not compromise who you are for anyone. I found myself, as we heard here, doubting the abilities that I had. And it took someone saying, trust me, as your mentor, I see things in you that you don't see in yourself. So trust me on this. And sure enough, they were right. And so I think, maintain your confidence, be true to who you are, show up, and have a voice at the table.
Awesome. Kenya?
I would definitely.
I would just say, one of the mottos I go by is never be afraid to fail, but be terrified of regret, right? So failure happens. You may get fired. I got laid off and I was devastated. I'm used to being amazing. How could they not want to keep me, right? Failure happens. And to Dr. Rice's point, you may interview for a job, think you were fantastic, knocked it out the park, and they didn't hire you. And guess what? Other opportunities come. So that deep core belief in yourself, belief that this just was not for me, right? If I was prepared, preparation meaning opportunity equals amazing. But don't be afraid to fail. And that's really hard when you're young. But be terrified that if there's that little voice in you saying, like you said, I want to do service, or I want to do ballroom dancing, or I want to do something else, be terrified not to do that thing. Be terrified not to figure out how to make that part of your life, to have a regret that you did not try something because you were afraid of it. Don't be afraid that you try something, you're like, skydiving is not for me. I tried it. I don't want to do it. That's fine. I failed that. It's fine. But be terrified to regret that you did not follow that thing, that little spark, to your show, the spark that was inside of you. And just be terrified not to do that part. Don't be afraid to fail, but be terrified of regret.
I love
And my
that.
point actually builds on that, in that you have to, again, alluding to what I said earlier, you have to know what it is about you and stay true to that. Success can only be defined by you and you alone.
That's right.
It's not defined by others. It's not in comparison to others. It is truly what you believe, like what is inside of you, what needs to be sparked out of you, and stay true to that. And as long as you stay true to that, then you will continue to ensure that you have success with that. So if you are true to being, if you want to be this successful lawyer, or you want to be a successful professor, and you have opportunities that come and you may not get that opportunity at that point, keep going, keep trying, because you know deep down inside that's who you are and that's what you want to be, and you will find it. I think God shows you ways along your journey that embraces not only walking in faith, but also being true to who you are. And as long as you are committed to that person, then what you learn along the way is just part of the journey.
That's right.
That is really just
Amen.
part of it. And that comes with some successes, and it also comes with failures, but those failures are lessons. And as long as you stay true to that and you know who you are, then you won't have any regrets, and you'll keep going and keep striding in your own definition of success.
I love that. Dr. Washington, anything to add?
Way too.
I see success as kind of this dichotomy. You have this outward success in the profession, what other people see, your accolades and what you do. But then there's that inward side of success. What are my values? What makes me happy? What really fuels and feeds my soul? And I think when that inward and outward success, when they become imbalanced, that's when confusion arises. People can get frustrated. And so I really try to, I put the external successes out there to try to be examples, motivator. I do a lot of face plants all the time, get back up, keep it moving, sort of thing. But I also need to make sure that I'm listening to what really is making me happy, what is fueling me, because if I run out of gas, it's not a good look, sort of thing. So I need to be cognizant of both of those dynamics. And to me, they are both important, and they need to be in a balance for me to just keep moving forward and continue to be successful. And then I also need to think about how am I defining success? What are those measures that I'm giving to success, and how am I evaluating that to make sure that it really doesn't become something that's either unattainable, unrealistic, or just straight up stupid. Or maybe it is good, maybe it is healthy. And so I need to kind of check myself on how I'm thinking about the outward success and the inward success. And that's a continuous growth process.
Oh my goodness, y'all. This has just been so awesome. Like literally, I have little tears in my eyes because there were so many things that y'all said that just resonated with me in so many ways. Ladies, oh my goodness. If you did not hear this from the beginning, go back, watch the replay. Let us know you're watching the replay, because there was so much here. I cannot thank you ladies enough. If you are listening and you got anything, and I mean anything out of this today, I don't know how you can listen and not get something out. I just asked 3 things of you. Would you either consider commenting, or sharing, or all 3? Comment, share. Listen, that's how people find out about us. This is how we get to spread the word about all this brilliance that's happening. This is how we dispel the myths about what success looks like. What does authenticity look like? Y'all, there was so much here that I'm gonna make this some required listening for some of my coaching clients, because there was so much there in terms of how we go about what we pursue and how that intertwines with our purpose and what really matters to us. And so as we close out, like I said, share, let people know, like our page, but at the same time, these nuggets they shared at the end. Success is being you. Success is failing, being okay with failing, but being terrified of regret. Success is listening to that little voice inside of you that's telling you there's something more, something different to what it is you want to explore within you. And success can only be defined by you. And I'm going to add, and God helping you define success for you. So I will say this, y'all, it's about finding that internal balance between external success and internal success. Y'all, there was so much here. Please go back and listen. I cannot thank you ladies enough. Y'all were awesome, awesome, awesome. And as you ladies go about your day, just think about, shattering the glass ceiling isn't about just shattering ceilings in your professional life. Shatter those ceilings in your personal lives as well, in your spiritual lives, in your purpose. Shadow ceilings there, because so often we put limits in what we think and what we believe and what we pursue, because we've imposed some ceilings that need to be shattered. So thank you so much for listening. If you guys didn't know, I'm Nisha Jakes, founder of Spark Her Blaze, where we empower women to spark their flames.
Thank you, Nisha.
Thank you, Nisha.
Thank you, ladies. It's been amazing. I gotta have you back. I hope you say yes when I call you again, because there was just so much there. Y'all have a happy, happy Saturday. Y'all, see you later. Tell everybody bye.
Bye.
Happy today.
Thank you.